What is up, guys? I am back again today with another deck to showcase to you on the ladder. Obviously, with Saviors of Uldum coming out, everyone's after the new and best deck, so I'm here to just show you a few. Today we're going with the kind of the only aggressive deck that I've seen going around on the ladder. Everything else is kind of really mid-range or control-y. Typically, aggressive decks aren't really my thing, so I'm trying to learn to be better. So hopefully you guys can help me with that. Anyone watching that, feel free to leave a comment below. I'm always a little unsure as to when to be going face, when to be trading, but we're learning. So anyway, the deck is pretty crazy. As you'll see, I start playing at about rank 8 with this deck, and I don't lose a game all the way to rank 5. Literally took me probably half an hour to climb 3 ranks, which is pretty cool. So the deck is clearly powerful. We'll just run through it pretty quickly. It's not that dissimilar to your typical rogue builds from seasons past. Obviously, you've got your backstabs, your deadly poisons, Souse He, Eviscerate, Saps, all that kind of stuff that usually runs there. You've got the Evil Miscreant for the lackeys. The new cards that we do have are the Pharaoh Cat. This card sometimes performs really good and sometimes it gives you unusable junk, so I'm not 100% sure about it. In the deck, we've got the Hooked Scimitar, which is crazy good. A 4-2 weapon for 3 is absolutely insane, provided obviously you can get that combo off. I'm not too sure about Edward in this deck. It's not a deck where you're typically playing a lot of cards every turn. The biggest Edward that I ever managed to get off was a 6-6, which obviously isn't bad early on, but potentially could be good for could be a better option. So if you guys have any ideas on what could be better, then let me know. As we'll see, the deck is pretty straightforward. You play on curve, you hit the face a lot with the weapons, you use the Waggle Pick, which is obviously a super strong card, to return damage to your hand, either Leroy or SI7 agents, or even the Life Drinker. So let's get into some games and show you just how quickly you can run down your opponent with this rogue deck. Alrighty, so game 1 here is up against a Paladin. At the moment, the only really good Paladin deck running around is that Prismatic Lens Murloc Paladin deck, so I'm kind of assuming it's that. In terms of mulligan strategy, you're always kind of looking for a good 1 into 2 drop. The Pharaoh Cat is ideal, just because obviously the deckhand is pretty easy to take out and it is better as a rush minion just dealing damage. So the Pharaoh Cat into the Fairy Dragon here is super nice, and the backstab is great, as well as the coin with activating combos, which this deck is pretty heavy on. So we're just going to play the Pharaoh Cat turn 1 here. Like I was saying before, often it does give you some pretty useless stuff. In this case, that 6 cost 34 taunt is probably never going to see play just because it's so slow. And in this really fast-paced deck, it's really not going to be any use at all. So a good 3-drop draw there. I am going to trade there just because Paladin is the kind of deck that can often benefit off buffs and stuff like that. So you do, whilst this is a face deck, you do want to control the board to some degree, especially in the early game, and it's important to know kind of when to give up the board and just really go for the face, which is kind of usually about that turn 5, which is mid-game for this deck. So I've got some pretty good combo cards here, which are going to allow me to clear this board and also hit the face. I'm going to backstab and SI7, meaning that all this damage can go to the face, and I'm able to keep building this board up. Turn 4 is often a pretty scary one because they can Prismatic Lens and have their big Murloc generating spell out ready by turn 5 if they get lucky. So it's always a bit of an anxious wait to see if they've got it. In this case, luckily he doesn't, and the Murloc Tasty Fin is something I'm probably going to want to ignore. I know it does get buffed by other Murlocs, which is obviously bad for me, but at the same time I do want to avoid him drawing cards. The more cards in his hand, the more proactive stuff he's going to be able to do. So at this point it's making sense to just hit the face. Obviously with this Waggle Picks, if I do choose to play it, ideally I would either get the SI7 agent or the Pharaoh Cat back, just so I can get some more value out of those, particularly the damage dealing minions such as the SI7 agent are super good to get back to your hand, the Life Drinker, etc. So yeah, as I said, I'm just going to hit all face here just because I don't want him having extra cards, and the 3-2 isn't that scary. Obviously he can Cold Sear it or he can Murloc War Leader it, which gives him a bit of an advantage on board, but at this point I've got a bit of damage in hand, I've got a decent board, and he's only at 15. So it's going to make more sense to just go after the face. Here he's going to try and kind of take back board control, as I was talking about before. The Cold Light Seer comes down, which does help him out a bit, but again, I still think I made the right decision. He does kill off the SI7 agent, which means I can't bounce it back to my hand, which is a good decision on his part. The Hook Scimitar is a pretty good draw here, just because I am about to run out of weapon charges, and it is a super powerful weapon that will hopefully help me close out the game here. Again, sapping this back to his hand is super good for me, just because it does prevent him from drawing cards. It was down to 1 health, which meant that he could have easily traded it into anything for another 2 Murlocs in hand. And sapping that back to his hand is just a super good way to prevent him from having more options, basically. I get the SI7 agent back into my hand, which is super lucky there. Either would have been fine, but it looks like with that in hand, I'm almost going to have enough damage to finish him off next turn. Well, I do, between the Scimitar, the South Sea Deckhand, and the SI7 agent. He is going to play the True Silver here and hit the face, which is going to heal him just out of range of lethal with what I've got in my hand. So if I can top deck 2 damage here, then we're good for the win. Otherwise, we're going to have to consider a board play. Luckily though, I do top deck the South Sea Deckhand, and that is going to be exactly the right amount of damage to finish him off there. So pretty lucky with that draw, but I think we definitely had this one in the bag regardless. Other than that, that weapon, the True Silver, he doesn't have any healing in his deck, so I think it only would have been a matter of time until we got the win there. So that's win number 1 with this deck. I'm not going to show every game between here and rank 5, just because this video would go forever, but I will show some in the middle and some at the end as well. But that's the win number 1 with the deck, taking us to rank 7. Alrighty, so here for game 2, we are against a Mage. If you've seen my previous mid-range Warlock video, as I was saying in there, there's a few different kind of mages running around, so it's hard to know exactly what you're up against. But there's a lot of overlap with them as well. A lot of them are running the secret package, where you're drawing the secrets for free, and the minion that allows you to deal 5 if you have a secret up. And then obviously there's the Highlander Singleton deck, which again is more of a control-y deck, and then there's like a minion-y board deck as well. So I play the Pharaoh Cat in 1, pretty nice curve here, and I actually get the Micro Mummy. Now, after playing quite a few games with this deck, obviously playing Micro Mummy a handful of times, the Pharaoh Cat a handful of times, the Micro Mummy is absolutely, in my opinion, the best minion that you can get, especially when you're curving 1 into 2. It's just so insane. A 1-2 minion with Reborn is pretty sticky to deal with in the early game. Obviously they've got to kill it and then have a way to deal another 1 damage to it. And it's constantly buffing your board at the end of each turn. So it's a super, super lucky minion to get from the Pharaoh Cat just because of that. And it synergizes pretty well with the deck. So he chooses here to kill off the cat, which I get obviously presenting the most board on damage, but I think, in my opinion, the better play would have been to actually kill off the Micro Mummy that first turn, so you have the ability to just Fire Blast it off the next turn and take that constant value generator away from me. But he chooses not to, so here I'm just going to play the Hench Clan Thug. Again, I could have daggered and then next turn got the immediate buff, but with this buff coming from Micro Mummy every turn, it's good to just have minions on board to be getting the value out of that. And clearly he's pretty scared of this Hench Clan Thug, which he should be. Obviously he can grow super fast, so he chooses to coin out the Fireball there. Realizing that I'm an aggressive deck and that he needs to really be able to control the board if he wants to have a chance of winning. So here again, unfortunately, I don't have a way to activate this Evil Miscreant, so I'm just going to dagger up and attack with the South Sea Deckhand. Again, not the best use of the Deckhand, but with this Micro Mummy on board, it really allows you to keep getting that value, which is worth it. So here he's going to choose to Fire Blast off Deckhand, again leaving my Micro Mummy up, which is super nice for me. He's going to Ancient Mysteries, a secret, and then play it immediately. So obviously my first thought is the Flame Ward, the AoE, deal 3 to all, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense here. I actually get, and once I attack and I know that it's not that, I kind of get the feeling it could be Counterspell. So I choose to actually backstab the Micro Mummy, which would have looked really stupid if it wasn't counterspell, but luckily for me it was. And that means that I can actually play my Evil Miscreant as a combo and get the lackeys, which is super nice. I'm just going to hit the face here and then re-dagger. I could have discovered a spell there, but it's not quite as mana efficient. This way I'm able to use all my mana and I can still obviously play the lackey next turn if I need to. A really weak play on board from him, just playing a 2-2. Obviously he gets to discover a secret. I'm thinking the best in this case for him would be either Ice Block or the Flame Ward. If it's Flame Ward, I possibly shouldn't have played that lackey first, but none of my minions will outright die from it here other than the lackey, which I can Shadow Step here if I choose to. I attack the face and it appears to not be Ice Block, so therefore I'm pretty confident that it's going to be Flame Ward. I almost make the mistake of playing the SI7 agent there, but end up attacking first, which is the right play given that it is Flame Ward in the end. He's going to deal 3 to everything. I get the Micro Mummy back as the Reborn minion, which is pretty close to dying now. I'm going to SI7 agent his minion just so I am able to keep up my board presence basically without having to trade. And now I'm just going to re-dagger here at the end. I've got this Kobold Lackey, but again, it's always better to save. It's a good way to kill Ziliax if he has it without letting him get an additional 3 healing from the second, from trading a minion in. So it's good to just keep in hand until I really need it for the face damage. It's looking like he wants to Fire Blast the Micro Mummy here. I think he's probably at this point regretted not killing it a lot earlier than what he has, just because it's given me quite a bit of value over the last 5 turns. Ends up Frostbolting my SI7 agent and Fire Blasting the Micro Mummy. So again, he is kind of dealing with my stuff, but he's not developing a board at all. So I'm just really free to hit the face here every turn because I have no trades that I need to make. Pretty solid turn for me here. I'm going to play the Henge Clan Thug, attack with the face to give it the buff, and then just play the Life Drinker there. I can choose to Shadow Step the Life Drinker here for a guaranteed 3 damage. And with the Leroy in hand, that actually gives me 9. So I'm 2 off just from hand between the Leroy and the Lackey. He chooses to Flame Strike there. But with this draw of Eviscerate, that is not going to be enough to save him. So again, another super quick game, a turn 8 win here. I actually have multiple outs there. I choose to Shadow Step the Leroy and play it again. So just another super solid example of how this aggro deck is really performing well on the ladder right now. As you will see, we have now climbed all the way through rank 7 and we are into rank 6 without a loss yet. So our third and final game for the deck here in this video is against a warrior, which initially makes me pretty sad. This is the game for rank 5. If I successfully win this game, then I'll have streaked all the way from rank 8 to rank 5 with this deck, which is very efficient and feels pretty good. But seeing a warrior on the ladder, 9 times out of 10 this is control warrior or some sort of bomb, mech, warrior, all of which, as long as they can last through the early game against an aggressive deck, are going to pretty easily come over the top for the win. I haven't got a great turn 1 play here. Playing the deckhand by itself on turn 1 is never great. And when he brings out the Eternium Rover, it basically makes that a complete no-no. Otherwise, I'm just giving him a free kill and extra armor to go with that. So, gotta pass on that one. Feels pretty bad not having a turn 1 play, especially against the control deck where I really need to be having an aggressive start. So here he plays the Berserker, and it's pretty weird. It's definitely not in the control decks that I've seen previously, so it makes me kind of wary as to what it is. End up coining out the Miscreant here just to kind of get some stats on board. Again, he can trade the Rover into it for some free armor pretty easily, but I need to start doing something. Generating these lackeys into my hand is good. I could backstab something here, but it's a really good combo enabler, so I'm going to hold it for until at least next turn. Now he plays Heroic Strike, and he kills my Miscreant with it. And at this point, I'm 90% sure that I am in fact not playing against Control Warrior and some sort of, I mean, I'm still not sure, potentially aggressive warrior, potentially mid-rangey kind of warrior. I'm not really sure. Definitely nothing like I've seen before. So here I'm going to choose to backstab the Berserker. Obviously it's reborn with 1 health, and then I'm going to kill it off with the Kobold and just play the Fairy Dragon. Fairy Dragon's pretty nice. It contests his minion well. He can trade into the Lackey if he wants for that armor. So here he's going to play Snip Snap, obviously merge it together, and then he actually goes face here. He plays the upgrade and he trades, and at this point, once I see the upgrade and I see that face hit, I know he's aggro. I am pretty confident at this point that the rogue deck that I'm playing is going to be a lot better equipped for being aggressive, basically. So at this point, I decide to just go all in and start hitting the face. If he wants to race, I definitely think that I can win the race. Now, potentially, it was a hard decision to make just because he does have this big Eternium Rover on board. He can gain a lot of armor. He's got that armor gaining hero power. At whatever point he chooses to play more defensive, which he does right now in this turn, now that he's seen me start to go face, he can quite easily build up a lot of health, which may be hard to come back from. So he's going to gain armor from the Eternium Rover, he's going to gain armor from the hero power, and he's actually going to make this a 6-6, which is pretty terrifying given that I've only got 24 health, and in a couple of turns that's going to mow me down. But I've got a lot of damage in hand here, which is looking really good. So I'm going to play the Life Drinker, and then I am going to evolve that with this Witchy Lackey here. And I'm just going to continue to hit the face. Now, getting a pointy minion, which means, just attack higher than health, with this evolution is pretty good, actually. I'm pretty happy to see the 4-2. Obviously, it's not a great stats for that cost minion, but it could be worse. It could definitely be worse. But at this point, he's at 14. I'm at 17. His board is probably a little bit better than mine, but I'm carrying a lot of damage in hand here. I can see he's got the 6 attack with the minion. He's got 4 attack with the weapon. So he's 7 off lethal next turn. Now with a Leroy, which obviously costs 5, that takes me to 1. So even worst case scenario, and he draws the Leroy, I'm at 1, and he needs an extra 1 damage with 2 mana, which is definitely possible. But I like my odds here better, and rather than trading and taking down this Eternium Rover and giving him a bunch of armor, I choose to just go all in, fill the board as wide as I can, and hit face twice. So he's at 7. I've pretty much always got lethal next turn between the Leroy in hand. I just need 1 damage to survive on board. But it all comes down to whether or not he can kill me, basically. So he plays the Frothing Berserker and the Crystallizer, and at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. He obviously realizes how close he is to death. He chooses to trade with the Eternium Rover, gaining another 2 health. So he's actually up to 11 at this point, but he's going to attack into 2 minions here and go back down a little bit. So he chooses to kill the Lackey. He kills the Henge Clan Thug, which makes sense given that I can buff it with a weapon swing, and then he goes face with the last one. So with this 3 attack minion on board and the Leroy in hand, that's an easy kill. So a pretty easy final boss, if you will, down to rank 5, just because obviously that deck's a bit wacky, but it's cool to see some variation on the ladder. And so that is the final win there, streaking all the way down to rank 5. Alrighty, so that brings us to the end of this Rogue Smorking video. Thanks very much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end here, I'd love you to like, subscribe, and or comment. All of that is greatly appreciated. If there's any other decks that you'd like to see, even if it's something that's pretty common, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can still go through it, kind of learn how to play it together. Then let me know. That would be great. As always, the deck list is on screen now at the end of the video, and the deck code will be in the description along with any other information. So thanks very much for watching, and have a good one. Cheers.